When are we getting rid of exhaust on ARAM?
Ooh, that's a great question. It's a contentious topic.
I hate it.
When someone does it in playtest, we shame them.
Yes.
You should.
I think the only thing right now preventing it,
deserve
more
it.
people from doing it, is the social pressure. I was teaching some new friends who just started playing League about it, and I'm like, in ARAM, I was like, yeah, take Snowball, always. And if you're on a ranged champion who really doesn't want Snowball, take something else. But if you take Exhaust, I won't play with you anymore.
So
Hello and welcome back to The Dive, driven by Kia, Season 9, Episode 20. And yes, you may notice Azael is not here. He tragically, he actually posted about it on social media, but his dog passed away, and so he's taking some time. But we have two new guests. Emily is joining us for our MSI talk, as well as our ARAM talk, because new modes are coming out. And we've got Riot Cadmus here, the lead modes producer. Welcome. Do you want to tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Sure thing. I'm in charge of the modes team for League of Legends, so responsible for everything ranging from ARAM, URF, One for All, Spellbook, and then also newer modes like Swarm or Arena, which will be also out this week.
Nice. I'm actually super happy to have Arena back. I know some of our teams are.
I know, dude. I didn't even know till you mentioned it right before we started filming. And I'm like so hyped now because the most recent version of Arena was just like chef's kiss. So good.
Yeah.
We moved quick on that for sure.
It's really funny because when we come in early for our LCS days and the teams are there, FlyQuest is our biggest one in this. They spam all of them and all of their coaches all get into arena matches to like warm up for LCS games. But a lot of our LCS teams are definitely big fans of it.
Super excited to hear these type of stories. It's kind of like when you're working on it, you imagine, I really hope people kind of stick to it this way, or they use it as warm-ups, and then to hear people like actually engaging with it that way, it's like, what a relief we did it.
Do you have anything special coming out? You're saying with Arena coming back, any tweaks?
This time around, we're just turning it back on. We have to make sure we maintain the roadmap for the rest of the year, but obviously, given people's interest, we're definitely going to be invested in some new updates. In Season 3, when that will come out, we'll be resetting the progression system and doing a few tweaks there. But you can expect bigger updates probably next year on Arena.
That's awesome. Happy to hear that.
We also, the main reason we got you in here, though, some big ARAM changes.
Oh, yeah.
I also for the longest time, I was one of the Turbo Sweats only play solo queue ranked. I would never play normal games. Would not even play flex queue with friends.
Oh my God, he's a monster.
Whoa, what?
Yeah, no one likes
I would never touch ARAM.
Did your friends go up to you? They're like, Kobe, can we play with you? And you're just like, no.
I'd be like, I'm busy. I gotta rank up. I gotta grind. But over the years, after playing the game, for like 12 years now, I eventually started playing Flex Q. I opened up to having more fun and less.
I guess you're willing to have fun.
And then the biggest step was ARAM, which now I actually really enjoy because it's way less stressful. So, but I still haven't played that much of it. So, do you want to explain some of the big changes that are coming? Because the pictures have looked really cool. At the very least, the visuals are nice.
Yeah, our art team makes my job very easy, admittedly, sometimes. So we have two major things coming to ARAM this time around. One is that we're introducing a map rotation to ARAM. So, it's all random, all mid, and now it's all random, all mid, all random maps, ARAM, something around those lines. So we're adding a new map, which is for Spirit Blossom. Koshin's Crossing, which is this beautiful map in Ionia that has kind of like two different sides to it that kind of represents part of the in-universe lore and world that we are pretty excited about introducing.
Are they artistically different but physically the same? Or are there actual changes to...
The gameplay changes are pretty limited on purpose this time around, right? Where mostly the gameplay change will be focused on like the very center of the map, where we're adding a little like portal, where if you move to the portal, you move to the other side of the lane.
Pac-Man.
So pretty much. You just kind of like loop around just around the mid lane, and that just gives you a little bit more movement options, and a few champions get a little bit happier about just having space to play and outmaneuver opponents. But It's pretty straightforward still. I mean, at the end of the day, the rule we wanted to live by is it's still ARAM. The other map that we're introducing to the rotation that players haven't seen in a long time is the Butcher's Bridge with a few updates. So with the rotation, we wanted to make sure it wasn't just like 2 maps. We felt like we had to at least hit 3. And we just introduced the Bridge of Progress last year, but we wanted to bring players something really exciting that they had been looking forward to for a while. So now Bilge is back. It has cannons to just launch yourself at enemies because is it a Bilgewater map if it doesn't have cannons? I mean, come on. And then it has a Power Flower objective similar to what you've seen in Arena, but very, very smaller in scale and in power compared to Arena. So it's not like a game changer, but it's something to play around the mid lane. So we really want to emphasize that these maps still do that kind of line of scrimmage gameplay that you see in ARAM.
I like where you say it's limited power because the last mode Brawl that came out, I was really excited for. I got a little bit hung up on how powerful the buffs were though. Because I really I wanted to just play into like brawling and fighting and stuff. But in my games, which turned into Turbo Sweat games, it turned into a lot of going for the buffs and
sounds like you're supposed to just go in and have fun.
I know.
I don't know what to tell you.
I need to relax.
It's a death match where the most important thing is objectives and not dying. Wait a minute.
So that's cool though, because that was one of the things I was looking forward to though. Are there going to be like these little small changes? So like cannons, flowers, and portals and stuff. Actually sounds.
Wait, so is the portals? It's only in the Ionia map?
The portals are only in the Ionia map. The cannons are only in the Bilgewater map. We want to make sure that each map that you load into feels different enough that you feel like you can look forward to certain maps and have favorites, and never feel like you have like a specific thing that you'll always have to see. And most importantly, we just kind of want to breathe some freshness into ARAM, where it's been, it's been the Howling Abyss. It's been that way for like over 10 years at this point. And it's really, I think, needed for a long time, a little bit more emphasis on like diversity of environments and things.
Yeah. So is that portal, is that only going to be on the Bridge of Progress, the one like from your fountain to your farthest turret, or is that like an all ARAM thing?
We have not, right now, the portals, the Hex portals that we saw that then got turned into Frost portals because Howling Abyss, they're on the Howling Abyss still. Okay. The Bridge of Progress map is not part of the rotation as of now.
Okay.
We may introduce it in the future. Please look forward to any updates there.
We still have it.
But it definitely we'll be evaluating like different movement mechanics per map. Like we have a couple areas we're interested in whenever we introduce a new map, whether it's traversal or a few new gameplay options or slightly adjusting the shape of the map, even though it's one lane. We have some room to play to make sure that the players feel like there's a healthy amount of diversity that never infringes upon what ARAM is trying to be.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, was there something specific that you kind of wanted out of changing the maps or a reason why you didn't include the Bridge of Progress? Just because everyone kind of seemed to love that. But then all of my friends and seeing the Bilgewater is coming back, they're just like, yes, I'm so excited for this.
Yeah. Admittedly, when we were prototyping some changes to the Bridge of Progress map as well as the Bilgewater map, and our playtest, anyone who just literally just opened up the Bilgewater map was like, oh my God, I have to play this thing. I think I've never, it's never been an easier decision. Not to say that Bridge of Progress wasn't great. We love that map. But seeing the excitement during our early labs on what Bilgewater was going to be for players was like made this pretty obvious to see if we can revive it. So we went ahead and took that direction for now. And we're going to give the Bridge of Progress a little bit more room to breathe. And it needs a few more adjustments based off of the feedback that we got around like, the buffs that we had added to the inhibitors when you destroyed them that felt a little bit more game warping than a lot of players kind of wanted out of ARAM. Okay. We're mostly sticking for now to that map.
There's a question that I should ask for Azael since he's not here. So the other week we actually had a sort of debate between me and him about ARAM champion buffs. And so I'm curious on your take of it because Azael was very much on the side of like, he was strongly opposed to him. He's like, I hate ARAM balancing for champions, like more damage, less damage taken. I'm actually on the other side. I think that's one, because I was like Kobe, I used to hate ARAM. Like, I would not step foot in an ARAM. But over the years, like I feel like these changes, especially the ARAM balancing one, made it so much more fun. It's like I'm not just sitting there under my turret getting barraged by poke champs, unable to breathe. So what's your stance on the ARAM champion buffs?
It's tricky because I want to say it depends on the champion, but there are some champions that are a bit unique in ARAM that just require a lot more attention. And if we take that approach across the entire roster, it becomes, I don't want to complain on behalf of Riot here, but it's like, that's a lot of work, man. 170 plus champions to try to balance uniquely for one map and then uniquely for another one and then uniquely for arena and so on and so forth. So for ARAM, we want to take a case-by-case approach. So a champion like LeBlanc is actually a great example of, she is really difficult to make work in ARAM because she's about her movement and her high burst damage and being able to like shut down individual opponents while also moving around. So she loses part of her kit in ARAM because it's a lane, right? Like her mobility just isn't quite in play as it normally would be in any other map. Which then means, do we buff her damage? And the answer is no, because then you just one-shot people left and right, and that gets pretty unfun. So she is one of these champions where we have to take a closer look and maybe adjust her kit a little bit more slightly just to make her even make sense in the mode.
Yeah.
Whereas there's other champions that, by and large, would just work fine if we retune their kits. Most AD carries fall into this category, but I wouldn't say like we're hitting 100%. By and large, I think the generic kind of stat approach will do a lot of heavy lifting. It avoids a situation where it's like, hey, why does Vi play differently in ARAM? It's like we need Vi to play the same in Arena, the same in ARAM, the same in anything else, which means looking at adjusting values is a little bit of a healthier choice for players who want to make sure that they have transferable skills between the experiences.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a ton of sense. I think it's been a good approach. I actually played an ARAM last night where I feel like one of the ones that comes up a lot with these is like Akali.
Yeah.
Because for a while she had that like 120% damage buff and she goes Heartsteel and then she's a tank and she's one-shotting me.
I want to be on the record. I hate Heartsteel Akali so much. I can't convince our team to just somehow nerf that specific thing.
Okay, well, I'm with you on that. You have my full support on that one.
I hate it.
There you go. Yeah, it sounds like it's such a difficult problem to kind of like merge the two experiences, but I like that it is a priority to have like the transferable skills, because famously like the Shy and Doinby and there's like pro players that have talked about, at least in the past, of playing ARAM as far as like getting team fight experience in addition, to playing with friends and stuff like that. And that's one of the things that Isaiah always brings up too. I think it's pretty incredible right now that like there's not many champs that I feel like I just can't have fun with at all in ARAM. It'll be like, it seems like very hard to go from taking a champion on Summoner's Rift, Fiora or something, who's meant to 1v1 or split push or pick people off. And it's like, all right, now we're throwing them in the lane, front to back team fight, go. Yep. And it's not easy. So I think it's fun. It's good. There are some other modes in the past that I have noticed that we do very infrequently, but I'm also a big fan of. And since you're lead producer on like all the modes, I really like, you mentioned Swarm at the beginning, and I was like, Swarm was super duper fun. I loved like the PvE progression and the fact that I can play with any of my friends, even like the super casual ones and stuff was really fun. I got friends that had not logged on to League in years to log back on. And it brought back like really fond memories of like Odyssey and Star Guardians type stuff where the PvE modes, even though they're very infrequent, I always love when they come because it does feel like a community building thing where I can bring back older friends. I'll just like message someone on Discord who hasn't played in a super long time, and they'll be like, okay, fine. And then I get them on the League client, and then I try and get them into, at least an ARAM or,
If you already have it downloaded, you're logged in, might as well.
The gateway game to get them in. So I guess my question is it a strategy to like make them pretty far apart so that they have that like, oh, I really want, a PvE to come back, or are we gonna get some more? I know Swarm was pretty recent.
Yeah, I first of all, it sounds like you had fun in a for fun game mode. I didn't expect that out of you based off of it.
Well, it's because there was no possible way to actually sweat harder. It's because like there's no ranking and like there was nothing. So I was like, okay. I mean,
Guess I'll have fun.
I guess I'm forced to have fun. Oh no. Yeah, we do try to diversify the experiences that we build. So, for example, like we'll use the last 3 years where we had Arena, which was a mode that centered around PvP, but also wanted to start to dive into like what does more randomization and adaptability look like in League of Legends. So, how do we reward players with deep knowledge of League's gameplay systems, item systems, how to build, how certain builds play off of champion kits, and then notice an ever-changing game and evolve over time and adapt accordingly. And you will win because you can adapt. In Swarm, it's like, okay, let's take another thing. Let's imagine something that like players have potentially been asking for that they didn't even know they want. And that's kind of what it was, where Swarm was very much about trying to create an experience that would like get a lot of people's eyes into League for reasons more towards gameplay. So to your point, like when you hear, oh, I got my buddies back into League, or I got them to install the client. Maybe,
we've got you.
We
Got them hooked.
So that's very much the intent, is like we want to diversify these things. Sometimes we want to do some PvP stuff that really speaks to, like when players play League of Legends, they're PvP players. Like that's why you install League in the first place more often than not. So we definitely are always going to generally try to default a little bit more towards the PvP side of things. That's why this year you're seeing Arena, more investment into ARAM, Brawl, stuff that I can't quite talk about yet. That is going to be particularly compelling for a lot of our core audience. But then every once in a while, we definitely want to throw in something that's like a major tentpole for us to rally around and say, it's like, hey, everyone who has paid attention to League of Legends ever in their life, like you're going to hear about this. Hopefully give this a shot because A, it's free, and then B, your friends can get you into this. It's kind of an alternative experience. And we've had a lot of opportunities between a lot of the investments that Riot has been making around Arcane and Swarm and other opportunities to like get players back into League, and we're gonna definitely continue in that space in the future.
Yeah. One question that I've seen quite a bit, is there ever any plans to visit some of the old discontinued modes like Dominion and Twisted Treeline? Because I have a funny experience with them, because I've played League since the beginning forever. I played these modes and I see a lot of people speak fondly about them, but I'm also like, dude, you didn't play it. Like nobody played those modes. So I'm curious if there's any plans to revisit those, or are they just, rest in peace, or can't talk about it?
It's a little bit of the last bit.
Okay.
Can't talk too much about that right now. All I'll say right now is like, I think the Butcher's Bridge and our Nexus Blitz update like a year and a half ago, 2 years. Was that 2 years ago? Whoa, it's been a minute.
Ever since COVID, time doesn't count anymore.
It's not real. Those are examples of like, we're definitely interested in the space.
Okay.
Where it makes sense. I think the Nexus Blitz one 2 years ago definitely taught us that if we're going to do that, though, we'd like to do it and address some of the reasons why these modes are no longer live. So this is kind of why the Bilgewater map, when we're bringing it back, we're like putting a cannon on it. And not that the cannon is the feature that map needed, don't get me wrong, but we definitely want to, when we bring back, be proactive about kind of sanding out the rough edges of those previous experiences, or work on some of the things that kind of maybe stopped players from enjoying them a little bit more than they had. And League's a 15-year-old game, so nostalgia is finally definitely in play here. Like, not finally, I guess it's been in play for like 5 years already. I don't want to say that too much. But definitely something we're interested in revisiting, and I can't currently comment on any plans.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
Well, I am more excited for all of these secrets and and the future now.
Yeah.
I know that you also paid a little bit of attention to pro play. We've got MSI actually coming up, so I was kind of wondering, like if you actually had an ARAM game and you got 4 other people on your team that were professional players, who would those players be ideally, and then match them to a champion?
Okay.
Would be kind of fun. If you need some time, we can do ours. I know Emily always prepares everything ahead of time, so you can.
Yeah, I had very little time to prepare, but I wonder if people are gonna get. I wonder if you guys are gonna get what I'm doing. So I chose Doran, Tarzan, Chovy, Viper, and then I roll swap myself out of ADC because there's no way I'm better than Viper. Sorry,
Griffin!
Sorry, yeah, I was gonna say sorry, but hence.
As soon as you said the first couple, I was like,
All active players, all very good.
Yeah.
And then I didn't really do a lot of champion matching in terms of like the players to the champion. Like I didn't look up win rates or anything. I didn't have time.
Who do you have Tarzan on? That's what I want to know first.
Oh, I put Wukong because I just want him initiating.
Okay.
And then Chovy, Ryze, Viper, Jinx. I'm on Brawl because, they're going to carry my dead ass. And then I put Dorn on Malphite because he's been doing well on
Dude,
carries
he had
lately.
Smurf, Ambessa,
Oh yeah, we're going to
Gwen.
talk about it later. But yeah, like the Malphite kind of always kicks butt in ARAMs too. So I was like, this is a comprehensive team composition, and I'm just playing with old.
Smart. Okay. What about you, Meteos? You got some?
Yeah, so my ARAM team, I'm picking all mid laners because it's ARAM. It's only mid.
you go,
I don't know
all
why you
mid.
need other lanes. So obviously Faker, Chovy,
Okay.
it speaks for itself. And then I would pick High back from C9 because,
To shot call.
okay, I don't know about shot call,
I'm
but
joking.
you need a mid laner who's not afraid to get his hands dirty and just start fights. And that was one thing I always loved about High is like he could be on any champion and be like, yeah, I'm just going to go in and start the fight. I think that's huge for ARAM.
Nice.
And for my last mid laner, I was trying to think of like, who's a supporty mid laner. I'd probably go Doinby for that one
Nice.
because he's also down. He can play the tanks, he can play the supportive role,
Yeah.
and then me, Meteos.
What are you on? What's your champ? Elise? Zach? It's got to be one of your iconic.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think I would do Elise probably because she doesn't really stand out as like a really OP ARAM champion, but whenever I get her, I swear it's like it feels not balanced at all. So, yeah.
Doinby is a great ARAM choice.
Yeah.
Like he will also build tanky on anything too. So like whatever you want him to do, he's just gonna go tank and be unkillable.
When I saw this question, I immediately went to the stats website to look up what are the highest win rate champions, and then I was like, all right, what player can go with these champs? And I was like, oh wow, Vayne is at the top. I'm gonna go Uzi Vayne, and then I was scrolling down. And I was like, ooh, a Kale. I think I'm gonna go with the shy Kale because he also plays a bunch of ARAM. And then there's like, well, I can't just have all 80 carries. There's a lot of 80 carries at the top. And DPS champs. Ivern though is one of the highest like supporty style champs up there,
makes
even
sense.
up there with Sona.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I gotta get our MVP.
Oh my God.
Inspired on Ivern.
I like that.
The GOAT. And then I was like, okay, well, I have to be Volibear in there just because I've been a one-trick Volibear for like a year and a half now. Although now that I started playing Flex Q, I don't even play jungle anymore, and I was playing other things. But I'll go Volibear just for the identity, and we need a frontline anyway. So Maokai, it looks like to me the highest win rate tank on there. Maokai. I'll go the odd one, Maokai.
Oh,
Wow, that's
Stole
a
one of my-
throwback.
Oh, really? All right,
I was gonna go
what's your
all
team?
old players. So it's like
Nice.
first of all, I needed one like modern world champion support. So
Okay.
Keria on
Nice.
like Rakan
That's good.
or
Yeah.
something like that, just to baby me across the entire experience, just so I don't die or completely troll. He seems like he'd be pretty patient with my gameplay. And then I just want to go a bunch of old players. So it's like Dyrus on old Aatrox or
Nice.
something like that, or the odd one, or Hot Shot GG. And just like a lot of the like OG esports players that when I first started playing League and I was super into it, those were the ones I paid most attention to. So That would be my team.
I like that you're
Nice.
putting Darius on old Aatrox.
Yeah.
I want
The
old
attack
Aatrox.
speed, the attack
I want
speed
old
reviving one.
Aatrox. Yes.
Oh my goodness! I played that jungle. That was actually so fun. The new one is really well designed.
Oh, don't get me wrong.
You got to admit, the new one is like a cool design. I like that fighter style. But thank you. Yeah. Thanks for joining us. A lot of really useful information. And I think your
One
team
last
will do well.
question. One last question. It just popped up when you mentioned attack speed Aatrox. When are we getting rid of exhaust on ARAM?
Ooh, that's a great question. It's a contentious topic.
I hate it.
When someone does it in playtest, we shame them.
Yes.
You
so
should.
I think the only thing right now preventing it,
deserve
more
it.
people from doing it, is the social pressure. I was teaching some new friends who just started playing League about it, and I'm like, in ARAM, I was like, yeah, take Snowball, always. And if you're on a ranged champion who really doesn't want Snowball, take something else. But if you take Exhaust, I won't play with you anymore.
So I say that. So it's like you have to provide. Like I want to give my my personal answer and then my
Okay.
as the lead
Player answer.
Like
yeah.
So there's the player personal answer is, oh God, please get rid of it. Exhaust. I hate seeing it in ARAM, especially because I mostly play fighter engagey champs.
Yes.
Of like Zac, Vi. I just want to get in there. I'm very impatient when playing. So whenever I see like the hyper defensive summoner, I'm like, okay, I guess.
That's everybody's reaction right there.
Yeah.
Okay. But on the other end, I don't play AD carry. I don't play the type of champions that generally roll with exhaust and ARAM as like a defensive tool or something to kind of protect themselves a little bit. So it's like, I understand why it's there. There's value to it. But I don't love it. So it's like the answer is like, for the health of the game, it should be there.
Okay.
For a variety, unless we were to replace it with another summoner spell, to at least give certain champions options to play with. But it's definitely
A
frustrating.
necessary evil.
It's a necessary evil.
Okay, I respect that.
That's the Riot Cadmus talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
necessary.
Yeah.
Game design. More options. Counterplay.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. I never take it because like I never played I didn't play that much ARAM before, and so mine just automatically always went to Flash and Snowball. And then I would have to like quickly look up, what should my build be? What should my runes be? Because ARAM builds and stuff are just like so different.
Oh yeah, you have to
Yeah.
pay attention to the runes a lot because some of them are like giving you things that only make sense in Summoner's Rift.
Yeah.
I played Kennen the other day with Snowball, and I'm like, I'm going to have so much fun. Enemy team 3 exhausts. I had no fun. Every ult was exhausted. GG.
Ugh.
Actually, BG. I take that back.
Yeah. It was not a good game. I agree. with
BG on
that.
the other
That
team.
sounds
Shame
awful.
on them.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we could just lock it into Flash Snowball for everybody. Anyways, thank you once again for joining us. Really enjoyed having you. Hope you can come back when you design some new modes, and you will be able to talk about them.
There'll always be something I can't talk about. But yes, I'm excited to come back.
But
and-
it'll be a new thing.
yeah, it'll be new at least.
Thank you for joining us. We are going to take a quick little break, and then we will talk some upcoming MSI and MSI patch as soon as we get back.
Ready, set, go!
I'm at 47%.
Oh, I'm on 63%.
Man, I'm at 50%. Boom! 80% winner! The Kia EV9 can go from 10% charge to 80% charge in just 24 minutes with DC fast charging.
And welcome back to The Dive, driven by Kia. We are moments away from getting into our MSI talk, and we are, let's see, I'm 3 days away. You're flying on the 25th, Emily?
Yeah.
We're about to
Yep.
fly up to Canada. Meteos, you are also.
I'm
going up.
going to be there for like the very tail end of it. I think I'm
Okay.
getting there like July 9th or something, just for like the last couple of games or something.
Nice. We are going to do MSI dive episodes, so keep tuned for those. But let's start out with the patches, because the MSI patches have been kind of split into two. We touched on the previous one a little bit with the 25-12. That was their they usually do the big swings first.
Yep.
And then the little touch-up patch. And so our little touch-up patch, as of recording this, we're actually recording on Monday. It is, it's not officially, the patch notes are not officially out, but we have Proxon's tweet as usual with the changes that they have leveled for it. And honestly, I do think with the combined power of the two patches, kind of like we talked about last week, with there being so many changes to like, Azir and Talia and all these like super meta pro play champions. I actually think we can get some little shakeups here for the meta for MSI.
Yeah, I think it says that they did a pretty good job when this follow-up patch doesn't really have any of the things that were touched last patch for the most part, or things that are going to show up in pro play. Like, of the champs in the preview, Briar, Fiddle, Gangplank, Irelia, Kindred, Nidalee, Rammus are the buffs. I think Nidalee maybe could show up in pro play, maybe Gangplank in the right situation, but like, I would be so shocked if somebody played Briar in pro.
Yeah, same.
Because that champ is just so troll.
Yeah.
But I think Briar's super fun. I'm actually a personal fan of playing Briar, but if there were stakes behind the match, I would not.
You would not play Briar.
No,
yeah, I think that's a good call.
Yeah, it's just there's not many champions that has a button that will guaranteed kill yourself. And with Briar, if you're E's down and you press W at the wrong time, bye-bye, you're gone. That being said, I don't know. I think it would be one of the coolest things if somebody did whip her out and like find some way to make her work, because she is really strong. Like, she unironically does so much damage. And if you have one of those games where, you get ahead, you get like Stride Breaker and Sundered Sky or whatever, like, I don't know, maybe you could pop off. But I don't know. I don't think she's designed for pro play, so I would be quite shocked if she showed up.
Yeah, it's really hard, especially for pro play, because they'll design invades and stuff. And the easiest thing for me about playing against Briar, I very rarely pick the champion as well, is I'm like always like so excited. I'm like, all right, somebody draft Braum, like, let's go invade. Like, this guy can't get away because they try and like W over a wall and then they're like walking back at you.
Okay, if they try to W away, that is a first time Briar mistake.
But it's
the thing is,
we invade.
You normally should start E on, like, if you were playing Briar in pro, you start E, because you can clear your Raptors with E, and I don't know if it's quite as fast as W, but it's pretty comparable. Yeah. And has upside of not guaranteed suiciding. So that's pretty good.
But then you can't get away either. You're just going to try and like walk away.
Push him. Dude, that thing is a crazy knockback.
But yeah, so I feel like, I see a Briar in the game. I'm looking for level 1s and stuff and invades. And I feel like it is a jungle that a coordinated team can take advantage of more than, from the opposing side, can take advantage of more than like uncoordinated solo queue.
Yeah, I think it'd be a huge risk even in Fearless, where we are seeing some like I don't even know if do we call them off meta at this point? Because like part of the meta is but anyway, the biggest thing to me is obviously there are a few touch ups to this in the actual MSI patch, but all of the top laners that got hit, and I know you guys already discussed this, so I won't like go into it too deeply, except to say that a lot of teams that qualified, in particular, actually looking at anyone's legend and a lot of the stuff that Flandre played, they're gonna maybe have to find a few new answers for him. In particular, I'm curious to see how the Yorick nerfs affect, because like his thing has kind of been playing a lot of these like pushing tops. I also think the Rumble nerfs are kind of interesting because you have a whole bunch of top laners that love to play Rumble, and then top laners like Bin who
they'll do it, but they don't love it.
He came out and said he hated it, like way back in the past, right? And then was kind of forced to start playing it because it was a meta pick before Fearless was a thing. Yeah. And now they've kind of been just putting him on it anyway and be like, suck it up. And it hasn't been. He hasn't been himself. We're gonna get into BLG later, but like that's the biggest thing to me is like in talking to Azael, especially across this entire split, where he was so happy. He's like, oh my gosh, you can play so much stuff in the top lane. I think it's super diverse. A lot of the regular top laners that we've been seeing were hit on that patch prior to the MSI patch, and those nerfs will remain. So I'm really curious to see what the top teams come up with for answers.
Yeah, me too. I think both solo lanes, probably a lot of changes. As far as this one though, that's getting the taps on 25-13. I am actually kind of excited for Fiddlesticks. it does not show up, but I always am pulling for Inspired to bring it back out because he has
He has played it.
He literally has played it in professional play. And Fearless, when we go deep, they do like to cook, and you can get some crazy combos. Especially if you have it's not as good anymore. It used to be actually playable when Nocturne was a good solo laner. You could go solo lane Nocturne and Fiddlesticks, or you could have Fiddlesticks support and Nocturne jungle. And then you could guarantee Fears turn out the lights for them to take away the vision.
That's actually a sick combo because I feel like one of the things that is a lot of players probably don't know that Nocturne has that passive on his E where he gains some ridiculous amount. I think it's 300 move speed toward a feared target because almost every champion who has a fear, it's Fiddle, Hecarim, Shaco, I think are the only ones, unless I'm forgetting somebody. But Nocturne will sprint it though, anything that gets feared. So yeah, if you have that combo. Wait, I didn't even think about the light synergy with Fiddle's passive. Yeah. That's actually sick. I don't know how you'd pull off both those champs together, but that would be sick.
I can see Busio and Inspired maybe throwing it in there.
Yeah,
Nocturne jungle,
I'm cooking way too hard.
I don't know.
It's one that we run in Flex Queue, and it's so funny. It's so funny with all the different combos you can't pull off. But I don't know, the Kindred buffs too. We can get some Kindred in here. Meteos, I remember when they the previous patch when that Rammus things came out, you were like, that guy is gonna suck.
Yeah, I mean,
you were proven right.
Yeah, it seems like he has not done very well since the patches, so he's getting a little bit of a buff. I'm still kind of hesitant if he's actually going to be good because I haven't played him yet, but I have been playing a ton of League this patch, and I've not seen him one time, not even a single time. Which is so rare for a champion that gets big changes. Usually people will at least do it for science or whatnot. Yeah. So I think the fact that nobody has played him in my games means he's probably pretty bad. So yeah, I don't know. He's getting some numeric buffs, but I don't know. I might need a bit more.
I'm a bit curious about Gangplank. Just because of all of the, again, in tandem with a lot of the meta tops we were seeing getting tuned down. Gangplank's Q getting buffed is kind of interesting to me. And we have some Gangplank players at this tournament, more importantly.
You're getting some flashbacks. Is G2 gonna get binned?
Yeah, I mean, we have Bin, we have Bwipo, right? I feel like we have most tops here are going to be willing to play it, I'd say. So that is kind of interesting. If we get maybe later in the draft, we'll see someone try to take a chance on Gangplank. We've already seen it here in LT.
Yeah,
right?
I think we have seen it before. It's going to come down to what matchups can you pick him into because you definitely should not be blinding this champion. I'm trying to think, what blind picks could you pick Gangplank into? Because I know historically he can do pretty decently into some tankier champs who can't really punish him early game because obviously he scales really well. I don't know if he's ever fully recovered from the item changes though, because Essence Reaver not having the Sheen proc on it slows down his build a lot. He's got to go Trinity and then Collector, Lord Dom, IE or whatever. So it's a 4-item spike champ rather than a 2 or 3. So yeah, I don't know. It would be cool to see him. I think the ulti cooldown could be pretty big. Obviously that's such a powerful ult. I know bot laners around the world hate when this champ is being played because there's nothing worse than getting into an all-in and just having this Gangplank all dropped on your head because it's all right, I guess I can't get away and I'm getting killed. So yeah, maybe it'd be cool to see him. It's been a while. He's got some fun barrel combos.
I checked and Bin hasn't played Gangplank in 3 years.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
But it would be cool because everybody has the big memories of the big barrel chains and stuff like that. And Bwipo literally has a Gangplank tattoo that he got on his arm. So
I think the last time I saw it was a counterpick into Jax, I want to say.
I think
I'm trying to remember what matchup
I want to
shows up in.
say Kingen played it maybe this year, I think.
I mean, definitely have had some. I can take a look. But
with Kingen, he was playing it into Jax.
Yeah.
Another one on the patch for Pro Play. They Chovy pulled out the Twisted Fate, I believe, first. Of course, Faker also played it after that too. But then it's like, those are the ones where it's like, all right, this champ is now unlocked. Everybody go test it and play it. Like, did Chovy test it?
Chovy played something.
Yeah.
That's our green light.
But it's also the green light. Oh, immediately, Twisted Fate is on the nerfs.
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
Like,
they're nerfing his.
I was like, we got some like spell book, stuff going around everywhere. Spellbook unnerfed, so maybe we get a lot more spellbook.
I love how much more we've been seeing spellbook across like multiple.
It is
I think it's
fun.
super
It's a fun keystone.
It's definitely a fun one. But yeah, the Twisted Fate are cooldown nerfs. It's not like a massive nerf or anything. So if people have been like, oh, Twisted Fate is unlocked, let's start practicing it, then it's not like, oh, my practice is useless now, because it's still definitely viable. It's just a little bit less annoying for people getting ganked, like the bottom laners you're talking about there.
Yeah, I mean, so I was kind of surprised how much TF's win rate went up. If you look at a lot of the stat websites, he's like one of, if not the highest win rate mid right now, which I think is really interesting because he doesn't do very much damage, and you compare him to other mid laners who do. Though I'm not super surprised because the rapid fire change getting pushed back to 2,600, it used to be like 3K a while back, is pretty big for him, because I think the rapid fire cost reduction combined with, no more legend tenacity, no more unflinching, CCs are a lot more meaningful nowadays, and getting 2-second targeted stun from 800 units away on a 4-second cooldown or whatever is strong. Obviously, you need to have other things in your comp, like probably a strong jungler, but there's a lot of those nowadays. There's like Xin Zhao, Pantheon, all that stuff. So I definitely would expect TF to still be played even with these nerfs. I think that, he seems like he'd fit pretty well in pro player right now.
Yep. Rise also definitely deserving of the nerf, I think, along with the little tap on Twisted Fate. I think Rise probably still get played. Like the split pushing is so powerful right now. There's a lot of different options for it. So I'm actually excited because there's a lot of champs with good globals, especially with Gangplank getting buffed here.
Yeah.
I mean, Shen got a little bit of a nerf, so dropped a bit down in priority, and he never even like took over pro play or anything. But especially with Fearless, I like a lot of the options. You were mentioning the Yorick one.
Yeah.
And 3 armor, base armor, it doesn't like seem like that big of a change, but 3 whole armor is
that's a lot.
Right at the beginning actually can have a big effect.
Oh, 100%.
For a lot of lanes.
That can change your all-ins. You're taking so much more minion damage.
Yeah.
A lot of top lane is just, can I stat check the other guy at whatever break point, and it's gonna hurt him for sure.
Yeah. But let's get into the actual MSI teams and preparation, because I'm very, very excited for our trip to Vancouver. We've got actually a lot of changes to a lot of the structure of what the normal teams that actually qualify from the different regions. Of course, G2 is still going, but they were upset by Movistar Koi, and then we got
Our boy Jojo returning.
Our boy Jojo, exactly.
To Canada,
returning
victorious.
to Canada. Super, super excited for that one. I guess we can start with EU. Let's do that. So we can start with Jojo and Elyoya and Merwin. Merwin, by the way, if we're talking about top lane champions, like
he's willing to play anything.
Yeah, we should definitely start in this, because their drafts are very interesting, in large part due to Merwin, because he plays so many range tops and like mobile tops like Mbessa and Gwen, and then a lot of like Nidalee and a lot of these range matchups, which always makes it super cool, especially when they do have counterpick.
Yeah, and I think the big thing for me with this team is, like, Jojo really showed up in playoffs. I actually thought he was way shakier earlier in the split, to be honest. Mm-hmm. But with the way he was playing in playoffs, it actually just gives them so much more stability, specifically for Elyoya, who I think, like, if you're highlighting a star of this team, it's Elyoya. Like, we love to talk about Jojo because he's from here and he's been performing really well, right? But Elyoya is the heart of this team. He works super, super hard. He's also, in my opinion, kind of the engine of this team with the way that he paths, with the way that he interacts with his lanes. And that allows Merwin, like, they can trust Merwin in some of these kind of crazier picks because their mid jungle is working so well. And I think that was actually a huge part for me as to how they won EU in this past playoffs.
Yeah, I haven't watched a ton of the other regions personally, so it looks like did Movistar Koi just like ramp up going into playoffs because they had like a 50% win rate or something.
Yeah, they super did.
The answer is just yes.
They ramped up and they were for sure the underdogs, but it was super cool how they gained so much confidence, throughout their climb. And in their interviews afterwards, they're like, yeah, we were prepping for G2 as well because we knew we were going to beat KC.
It was great.
It was actually great. One of the other big changes for this team that I think should be noted is that they also brought back the coach that worked with Elyoya all the way from EU Masters and stuff, and has had such a long history with him. And all the players were giving him a ton of credit in their interviews afterwards as well.
Yeah, they basically were like, we worked so hard for this, and every single person shouted out their coach. And so I think like a theme, with kind of some of the outside of Gen.G, we'll like put them aside because I think everyone expected them to make it as the first seed if you watched LCK. But like we had a lot of like upsets going in. I would say with the exception of like Gen.G and FlyQuest actually. And a lot of it were these teams that kind of ended up clicking together really well and ended up being much greater than the sum of their parts because of hard work and because of draft prep. And I think that's really, really cool. I think Koi is a great example of that, of a team kind of coming into their own throughout playoffs. And in particular, I'm super happy for Elyoya because for me, like he is the heart of this team. It's something that a lot of people really a lot of fans were very skeptical, I think, of him in putting together this group, in them getting JoJo, which apparently was rumored to be like a 2-year process or something. Yeah,
they specifically wanted him.
Yeah, so this is kind of the result of the fruits of their labor. So it's a really, really cool story to keep an eye on. And I think in particular, the fact that the mid jungle has worked so well in the playoffs was like huge for them.
Yeah, I really like that actually, hearing that the coach who worked with Elyoya came back, because to me, it seems like one of the most important things for successful teams, especially even more with Fearless, is just being aligned in how you want to play and being able to trust your teammates. Because I think that in the past, pre-Fearless, you could kind of get away with teams maybe like using Band-Aids to get past some of their problems and just, you understand how to play one comp or one play style really well and a patch lines up for you and you win based on that. But I think when you have to play so many different champions and, see your teammates on so many different champions, it's like you need to have that trust and you need to be aligned to how you want to play. So I think having, if Elyoya is their team captain, the heart of the team, and then having a coach who's worked with them a lot, that's obviously going to help a lot just to get everyone on the same page. And I think it's really cool to see. I think it's, what makes League awesome.
Yeah. Elyoya was so active too. I'm always a big fan of junglers that will be willing to do 3 camp ganks.
Yes. Yes. I'm always talking about it. I know you and I always talk about when we're on cast together too.
And it like he did it like multiple times where there's good, like if the lane state is good, like especially in solo queue, but also in pro play, I know a lot of people have always focused on like, I can't get my camp stolen. I have to remain efficient. Got to remain efficient. But especially if you can pull it off very quickly, the upside can be so big, since I feel like the meta for a very long time has been that that's a faux pas. Don't do 3 camp ganks because then you're going to get behind. And maybe a lot of that is due to the old grubs and stuff like that. Yeah. But if you are willing to do that, and you can pull off the gank fairly quickly, it doesn't take that much time, and you can try and like instant recall right after and then go defend, and it's like, maybe like you'll give up 1 camp or something like that. But especially if you have long, strong lanes that can like defend your other side or something like that, there's a lot of drafts, I feel like, that can be set up to utilize that, and then you can like snowball a lot of matchups very effectively. So yeah, I just like that. Like Elyoya seemed like he was on fire, and he's willing to go for 3 camp ganks. He's willing to just like put so much pressure out.
Honestly, I feel like the jungle pool at this MSI is like pretty cracked. Like pretty much every top team is bringing a very stellar jungler to this competition.
I know we'll be kind of bouncing around. This would be bouncing around, but I wanted to, since you brought up that point as far as all the jungles at MSI, how do you feel about Beishuan? Because this is one of the things for me, because I was going back to like try and look at more VODs for BLG, because I was like, what happened? This like they were just in World Finals, and then they missed out to top at last split, and then this split they do their another jungle swap, and now Wei is out and Beishuan is in. And when I was looking back at the VODs, and I was like, individually, this guy's not like insane or anything, but it does seem like in the timeline matched up in the VODs where he's back on the team, Bin is playing better and Elk is playing better. And I got, sometimes you just need a change like that. And their jungle issues, like, Emily, what is going on with BLG and their jungle stuff?
BLG is one of those teams where it's like, it's actually really frustrating, because I feel like a lot of people who know of BLG are going to expect them to be this like LPL powerhouse coming in. They were not that. They like got rid of their coach mid-season. They had the jungle swap mid-season. I actually think like, in terms of like skill and what he does for the team, Beishuan is really similar to Shun in a lot of ways, actually. Where I do think he is a little bit more willing to play for his lanes, which might be why that they wanted the swap. I don't think of the pantheon of junglers I listed for the LPL, I was thinking about Tarzan and not Beishuan. Sorry, Beishuan.
Tarzan actually yeah.
I mean, Tarzan absolutely gapped him in finals, like, embarrassingly. But I think if I'm looking at this BLG team and I'm looking at their issues, Bin was super inconsistent. I actually think he had one of the worst splits I've ever seen him have career-wise. Like, previously, even when he was on Suning and kind of a younger player, he would have these splits where it was like, oh, okay, him and SOFM are kind of carrying this team, and the rest of the team might need to catch up in ways. That was not this split. I actually thought it was one of his worst splits he's had career-wise. He was really inconsistent. Like I said, they kept shoving him on the Rumble. I don't know if that was him just being like, no, I got it this time, or like what. I think when you're comparing him to Flandre, right? I mean, Flandre, he's a player who means a lot to me. As like a longtime LPL viewer, like I recently got into a little bit of an argument with Meteos about like how Flandre should be like one of the hearts of this team, right? Because when you think about BLG, it's like, oh, this team, their players, in particular, Bin and Knight, who's just been consistently good regardless, they have the potential to be the best solo laners in the world, right? They're not playing like that right now, but that is...
Yeah, Chobi's definitely got him beat right now.
That is like that is what you kind of look at from this team. And Bin not performing to kind of what we know, that Bin standard of him being able to like take over an entire game, hasn't really happened that much this split. And then by contrast, someone like Flandre, who I just don't think has the mechanics he had in Season 4. Even when he won his Worlds, it was off of a lot of these pushing tops like the Graves, right, on EDG. I don't think he was like... I think he's always going to be a player who's super smart about the game. I think he means a lot to the LPL. I think he changed the way that people looked at top lane in LPL, actually. But it's been a long time since then, right? And now he's just a really smart player who plays a lot of pushing tops, which is why I thought the York was going to be a little bit... the New York nerfs are actually going to affect him a lot. And maybe Bin gets a little bit of a buff from this. Like, it put him back on hard carries, right? But yeah, Beishuan, I think he's fine. I think he serves what the team wants. And then I think how BLG do is going to really heavily depend on how the rest of the team, especially this kind of core that they've set up, with Bin, Elk, and On being on that kind of 2023 team, that's when they popped off, right? And no one expected that team to be as good as they were at that time. So
Yeah.
that's a roundabout answer, but like I think Beishuan is fine. I think he's serviceable for what they want.
Yeah.
And I think they're looking, or at least if I'm BLG, I'm looking for a jungler who's going to facilitate my two like cracked solo laners.
Yeah. I feel like as far as the because I agree with everything that you said, and then I also would add Elk to underperforming at
Yes.
least. And a lot of the ones I was watching, he was like getting caught on mid waves a decent amount, which is like the 80 carry sin. but they also
Look, you really want to push that mid tier,
but also it felt like On was playing really well, but Elk was slumping. And it might have to do with like some of the champions. I always felt like he was better when he's on an 80 carry that has, is like Ezreal or Kalista or something, has mobility, has dashes, or even like Xayah has self-peel, stuff like that. Stuff that like doesn't have as much agency might be tough for them. But I feel like, when they had Wei, Elk was also underperforming, him and Bin. And then, he started playing better as well. When they did the jungle switch too, so Beishuan was some of the magic. We'll see. Yeah, that people know what they're capable of. That, like you said, they're still even with the jungle change, they're still not back at what.
Yeah.
Where you think.
How do you feel about LPL in regards to all the other regions? Because obviously, at first stand, Top Esports did horribly.
Oh, don't talk to me ever
Shamefully
again
bad.
about Esports.
Well, it's irrelevant. Do you think that's
Yeah.
just Top Esports, or do you think LPL is just not strong right now?
So I think LPL is in a really weird spot where they're not sending a team that is a tournament favorite. Like again, in previous years, you look at the top LPL team like BLG and you're like, okay, this is a team that could win Worlds, right? I don't think a lot of people are actually looking at the teams coming from the LPL and considering them favorites, especially with how T1 ended up showing up against Tomwa Life and qualifying for this event. And I think Gen.G is unequivocally the favorite going in, right? So LPL is in a weird spot where I think it was super interesting to watch this split because you had a whole cluster of teams that were really interesting and like good but not great, and then it was about sorting out like who was in there. And the number one seed from LPL in particular is super interesting because AL is a team that like, I don't want to say it's like a team of like misfits because that's not necessarily it, but I think the thing that got them here is definitely their team play. The fact that they are super well coached and prepare very, very well. Like Tabe getting his revenge against BLG, the team that dropped him in finals, I think was probably like a really good moment for him specifically.
Tabe turned this team around really quickly.
Yeah.
Really quickly. Like just changing two players. And very, very quickly. Yeah. He's and his draft
His
he cooks a
drafting
lot.
is really, really interesting. And I think really suits like his drafting shows me that not only does he understand what he wants to prepare against another team, but it also tells me that he understands the players that he has on this team, right? And I think the two players who obviously stood out the most in finals were definitely Tarzan and Kyle. Like Tarzan, if you just want to see like an insane carry performance, just watch their last game where he plays the jungle Zed. Like it's insane.
It is legendary.
And I mean, Kyle also pops off in that game too. So like, they both like Kyle has been, in my opinion, the best performing support in LPL.
Mm-hmm. I like how he plays like literally any kind of support too. The part that you're talking about with Tabe and these drafts, it is enabled when you have players that can play like anything in the role.
Yeah,
he can play super hard winning lane supports. He can play engaged supports. definitely agree with you there. And Tarzan, I'm a big fan just because he's a guy that actually plays jungle volley bear.
He will.
My goat.
Yeah, he's actually my goat. I mean, he actually just plays everything. You mentioned the Zed in finals. That everyone's gonna look at as well.
Yeah, everyone should just watch that game. It's like super super fun. If you're looking for like people are like, where did all the hard carry performances go? Like, look at this thing. But to loop back around to your question, Meteos, I think LPL is like on not a downward trend overall, but like I do think this tournament could be a little bit rough for them in terms of I would still expect their teams to do well enough, right? But I still think by far and away the favorites are Gen.G. And when I look at the way that LPL teams play the map, like I still think one of BLG's like greatest sins was kind of that they didn't always play the map. They just kind of showed up to the objective and fought you, and then they'd be better at team fighting, right?
The 100 Thieves approach.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think every LPL team is like that, but I think like they are very quintessentially LPL in that way. And then AL are a little bit different because they are, I think people look at this team and they're like, maybe they don't have the same like insane potential level. But they are, again, Tarzan and Kyle have been amazing. I think Shanks has stepped up so much. And it's cool to see another mid kind of not get given up on, because a lot of times when mids come into LPL or LCK and they don't immediately pop off, right? Like teams are just like, yeah, well,
we tried.
You're done. We tried. And Shanks has kind of matriculated up a little bit from his time on WU, where everyone was like, this is the next great LPL mid, and then he didn't end up living up to those expectations. Now on AL, they've done such a good job to facilitate him, and he's like returned that tenfold. So it's been really great to see him come into his own. I hope they do well internationally because they're just a really fun team. But I think overall the LCK has looked stronger in terms of performance and the way they play the map specifically more than LPL teams.
Dude, how many games did LPL teams play during their season? I feel, looking through all the stats for the teams, it's like these LPL teams have like 70 games played in their spring season.
And that is like one of the advantages that they maybe can have too, because LCK's playoff quote unquote format.
We're robbed from a Gen.G T1 final.
Gen.G literally only played one best of 5.
Yeah.
And LPL actually had so many. Like they actually had a real bracket and real playoffs. And so like, yeah, I mean, there can be that angle too, where you're like, well, more best of 5s heading into the international. That could be something that's in LPL's favor. But I'm pretty sure pretty much everybody is looking at Gen.G should win this tournament. They are just at the top of the food chain. And so if LPL or anyone upsets, then it would be that. It would definitely be a big upset.
Okay, so Emily, if we're just giving these teams, an arbitrary 1 through 10 strength, Gen.G obviously is a 10.
Yeah.
They're the favorites. Where do you put these LPL teams?
That's super, super tough.
It doesn't have to be accurate, just a number. All we need is a number.
I didn't expect to do a power ranking coming in. Because like,
well, I mean, we're not ranking them 1 through 10, but just like a strength, like just to get an idea of like how close are they to the top LCK teams versus the Western teams.
I would put like Gen.G at a 10, but then ranging through like the most difficult team for me to place is actually T1. And the reason why is because
it's an international event. They're gonna win.
But they had so much drama and they were not even good. That's
always their script, and then they win.
So that's always their script. But the thing that makes it way more difficult for me to rank them is actually the way that they won in their qualifying matches, right? Because like, as a KT fan, I always expect KT to lose to T1. It's just written in the script at this point. In a like serious elimination match, right? But I think the big story for me for T1 and the reason why I find it so hard to place them is because with all the drama, with all the underperformance, with all the bad drafts that they did have during this split, the big thing for me is that Doran stepped up so hard in their playoffs.
Ever
and like
since he died to crud,
yeah,
he's been
exactly.
a new man.
It rewired his brain. And like it's weird because Doran is a player who I always would talk about and be like, guys, he's doing really, really well domestically, right? Like he's even beaten Zeus in lane. Like he's doing super well. And then he would not do well internationally. And so like Top Esports, he would make me look very dumb when I was talking about him. But I think this split, he actually didn't have a great domestic performance until playoffs. So the way that this T1 team won and the way that they absolutely destroyed Hanwha Life, like almost perfect gaming them
crazy.
in that third game, like they have a lot of momentum to carry going into this event. So I have no idea where to place them in relative to the LPL teams, right? Because previously, and depending on their performance, right? Say T1 had qualified, but they just hadn't looked good, and it was like a 5-game series where it was like super back and forth with Hanwha Life, right? And Doran still wasn't looking as good, or like Owner was making some mistakes, or Guma didn't look as good, whatever. I would be like, oh, okay, like, maybe I put them below AL and BLG, like depending on the what I know those teams are capable of. But now I have no idea where to rank T1. Like international success memes aside, just because that series, they looked so well prepared, they looked so well coordinated, and they absolutely destroyed a team that I thought was going to be like 3-1 Hanwha.
Yeah. I think everybody agreed because like the whole year, Hanwha Life was like on the Gen.G tier.
Yeah.
And T1 was not even close to that.
No.
But Keria also, you mentioned Doran smurfing. Keria also mega smurfing, like especially the surprise Poppy play, where he charges his R and then flashes in and bonks him out. Keria also smurfing, and when he is playing well, then this team always looks super, super scary. I'm very interested to see about the drafts for them as well, especially as they get into Fearless, because I feel like that this team, like, it always operates best when Faker is able to be on a playmaking champion, and they can make a lot of these like super aggressive plays. Like I feel like Owner has been really good and consistent, but when Keria is on, if Doran can remain in this form, then they will be super duper scary. So yeah, I definitely agree. T1's got their usual.
Yeah, like T1 are the
going.
wrench for me, right? In terms of like looking at ranking teams, because because their series was so dominant. But
this is the T1. They sandbag all year so that they can somehow come into every tournament being underdogs and then win every single time. It's just what they do.
They threw in all kinds of crazy stuff this year too, with like all of the Zeus drama at the beginning with the re-signing and stuff. And then they're like, then they got Doran, and everyone is, definitely looking at that as a downgrade. But then he just smurfs on Zeus in this match, and they 3-0 him. Like Doran is like solo blowing Zeus's flash, and then his Ambessa is like 2v1ing the HLE backline or the like winning, and like, oh my goodness, it is he was popping off. It actually went crazy. So to refocus though, we did talk about Movistar Koi for EU. We kind of started with EU. G2 is going, but they did get beat, and this was kind of the thing that we were mentioning that was like kind of a theme with like both LPL having like, okay, yeah, BLG is going, but they had a weak split basically for them, and they're going as second place instead of first. AL takes over them, and then Movistar Koi overtakes G2, who usually goes as first seed, and goes for them. So for like the G2 look here, and them obviously having the support change and the jungle change, I think a lot of people have definitely been a bit extra critical of this team. heading into MSI.
Yeah, I mean, G2 is kind of like that team that just wins so much,
Yep.
so everyone's rooting against them because they want something else. And, they're obviously held to the highest standard. They're just expected to win, but they didn't this year. They're second seed. But I don't know. Looking at play-ins, I wouldn't be surprised if play-ins is actually going to be really, really good for G2 and BLG both because, obviously of the 4 teams in play-ins, there's BLG, G2, which are very strong teams, and then you have FURIA and GAM, who are like, not literally wild cards, but like kind of wild card tier. So I don't know. It could be a good confidence boost for them.
It depends. Like, I think the other thing to point out is even with FURIA and GAM, right? Like, these are 2 teams that people weren't expecting to make it out of their regions either. FURIA is another one where like some of their drafts are crazy.
Good job, Think Card.
And they're really well coached. And they have 2 like super young kind of like Brazilian prodigies on their team. So it's a pretty fun team to watch, but I feel like not a lot of people expected them to make it, never mind like 3-0 in the finals. And then GAM is also another team that like we were expecting Talon to be here and not GAM. And so that also makes it kind of interesting because it's like, okay, how well are these teams going to do now that they were kind of surprise qualifying? GAM is a little bit different because I feel like you still have Levi, you still have Kiaya, you still have like this team that was kind of forged together in the fire of the post match fixing scandal, and now they're just really close. Like they are very, very close as people. Like they talk about themselves as a family. And they, that is kind of their strength. Like, I feel like the theme across a lot of these MSI teams is greater than the sum of their parts. But you're right in that, like, with the other teams that qualified into play-ins especially, I would hope that BLG and G2 use this as, like, serious kind of prep time to get themselves back into the swing of things, especially BLG. Like I'm always very concerned with LPL teams when they look really shaky, and like even the last Worlds they were having issues, right? During the initial stage where they had the jungle change and Shun came in over Wei, and they almost got beaten by G2, right? Like they're one like insane Elk Ezreal performance away from not qualifying to quarterfinals. So that is always in the back of my mind is like, I get very nervous for LPL teams because they can be so swingy, but hopefully G2 and BLG can kind of look at this as a way to like right the ship.
Yeah, I think it is good to bring up the format because they get to play each other. In this play-ins, and it's not going to be super high stress because it should be theoretically would be the winners match for them, and then the whoever loses it probably still will be able to beat the winner of GAM versus FURIA if that happens. There's other upsets.
I think it's safe to assume it'll happen. Obviously, upsets can happen. That's why we watch, but it's pretty unlikely in this situation. I think it's very likely that we're seeing BLG and G2 get through.
Especially in best of 5. Like, fearless best of 5s.
So the team we haven't really touched on at all is Flying Oyster, who's coming back. They were I think they were the only team from First Stand that was showing up again. So how do you feel about them?
They're a fun team. The funny thing with CFO is like they're unequivocally the best LCP team. Like people like just agree. Like CFO, they are the strongest, right? But they like got in their own way a lot, where they'd end up having these like really long games or like really long series that you would expect them to be able to win a little bit more handily, I'd say. Obviously, I feel like everyone kind of saw them at first stand and they were like, oh, we should do the driver rest thing, right?
Oh,
like
God.
in Fearless, like we're going to have a rotating roster, et cetera, et cetera. So then I thought it was really funny when CFO was actually like going into the reverse sweep against Talon. They were 11-0 in games where driver played, and then they were 5-3 when rest played. And so like people should know that like driver is pretty much the starting top laner.
Yeah, they start him now. They used to start rest and then sub him in. Now they start driver. They still sub rest in, but yeah, now they've
kind of backed off just because everyone was talking about it first stand and like it was the major talking point for CFO. But then also the major talking point for me is always my boy Gen.G. He is still doing it, you know, he is still owning
he was so good at first stand.
the PCS, the LCP. I still think he is just an amazing jungler. And again, one of the junglers when I talk about like, oh, this tournament is kind of stacked with junglers, I'd include Gen.G in that because he is just really, really good. And again, kind of the engine of this team in a way. And yeah, I think they're going to be a team to really watch out for because I feel like you can't, even though they're not really a favorite, like at first stand, you really can't like underestimate them as a team because then they will give you problems and they will like drag things out. It's like, you know how we kind of talked about, I guess an LTA comp, even though the dominance doesn't match up, but like, you know how we kind of talked about the way that Shopify would like drag their opponents into these like super, super long matches with them, even opponents that were like supposed to be better. I can definitely see that happening with CFO against teams that are supposed to be stronger than them.
Yeah, and I do expect them to beat FURIA. I would kind of lean towards the Oyster side. So I guess for the like power strength numbers, I would have them up, but that's probably because they also beat us at first stand. We don't need to talk
about that one.
We received that. You know, of course,
you guys should be top esports.
Yeah. Of course, it'll definitely probably depend like on the bot lane. I mean, IU, I think from FURIA is very promising. Like that guy is a very good AD carry, and traditionally, when you look at the Brazilian teams or the LTA Sul teams, like their AD carry role is where they have a lot of their really good like solo queue and mechanically gifted players that can and will pop off. So maybe they get something going there. But I think the Oysters have a chance. Maybe the Oysters put some threat on G2 as well. You know, you're talking about it being good for G2 to be in play-ins. Could get a little risky for them, but I probably wouldn't bet on them taking down G2, but I could definitely see it happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing to me is just looking at Gen.G, right? Like he is, I can definitely see him doing super well. I think Doggo, another like I guess international fan favorite because of the way he popped off at MSI 2021.
It's a while ago, yeah.
He's also just got a great name, probably
he does.
best name.
But I actually thought he was like the most consistent player on this team. Actually, like even when they were performing well but kind of getting in their own way, I thought Doggo was always consistently showing up, and he's had a really good split. So
yeah. Well, good luck to the Oysters. Good luck to FURIA as well. We bounced around so much. Let me see.
Yeah, no,
which other ones?
You need to just tell me to shut up.
Which other ones didn't we quite grab
I think
here?
the only team we haven't directly talked about is FlyQuest, but obviously, you know, we've been talking about them all year. I think everybody knows about FlyQuest. I feel good about FlyQuest, honestly, like sending them here. I think that, you know, everyone remembers them taking Gen.G to 5 games last Worlds, which was incredible. Not something we've seen from this region. And, you know, it's not just a Korean team. It's like Gen.G, like the Korean team right now. So I don't know. I like their chances. I think they should stack up pretty well against EU. I think against Flying Oyster, I think they should do pretty well too. Not so sure about the LPL and LCK teams. I think they are always very difficult to play against. But I think based on how FlyQuest plays and approaches the game, I might favor them against LPL right now, just because when we had Inspired on here, he talked about how LPL is just, they've kind of had this reputation for being really chaotic, right?
Mm-hmm.
They just kind of do things. It's not always highly calculated. They'll just dive you for fun or start a fight for no reason. And FlyQuest has kind of identified as just being a really efficient team. They kind of model themselves after LCK. So I feel like that's good. As long as you can match up to the lanes and have good drafts, I think that, it's a really good way to play right now. I think it's usually going to beat the teams that go for just the chaotic fight everything approaches. As long, the big asterisk is, can you match up in lanes? Because when you're playing against these players, who are the top of their regions, that's going to be way different than playing against regional opponents, right?
Yeah.
So, sometimes the matchup will just be wow, I didn't know you could play the matchup that way. Now all of a sudden I can't play the game anymore. So I don't think it's going to happen. Obviously Bwipo, very experienced, though the rest of FlyQuest, Quad, Masu, and Busio, they don't have the most international experience. They have some, obviously, but yeah, I don't know. I think they'll do well.
I feel pretty good too. Of course, I am really sad that Cloud9 is not also going to be there. But I do feel good about FlyQuest and very hopeful. And I'm super glad that they do get to continue their story, because last year at Worlds, I was actually so hyped and so proud to represent NA and LCS with them taking Gen.G to 5 games, and with some of the previous performances in the year from Team Liquid, taking about MSI from them, and a lot of the middle of the year games and stuff. And so I'm just happy that our stories for Masu and Busio on the international stage do get to continue. And we get to see what this team is going to be capable of further down the line, because they have kept their roster together. This is the longest standing now roster of any team in the world, keeping the same players.
Really?
Yeah, players are together.
That's how many. That's
How
just how
long
many
is it?
rosters changed.
Just because
They just had their 1 year anniversary on
No
finals day.
way.
Yeah.
every
That's crazy.
other team in the world has changed something.
Yeah.
But FlyQuest has kept everything.
Nobody sticks together anymore.
Yep. And so I'm happy to see the continuation of the story, and I really hope that they can continue to succeed on the international stage. I think that they are always I always have a lot of confidence in them in Fearless, and since we are going to get so many best of fives with MSI, it's all best of fives. I feel like they will have a good opportunity to shine here and to show their creativity that everyone in the LCS has always been talking about for the entire split. And hopefully we'll see some good things on the international stage from them. No pressure, boys, but you're our only rep. So
I mean, I think FlyQuest's strengths going in are, again, they are really well coached, which puts them, I think, in line with a lot of the teams that made it here, right? And then additionally, the creativity and also the way that they play the map. I think FlyQuest's ability to cross map and just recognize how to leverage, especially some of their early lane assignments. They were one of our best lane swapping teams previously, and I think that still shows up in their understanding of early lane assignments and how they can get advantages that way. And I think the question for me in going up against the better teams at this tournament is, are they going to be able to 5v5 as well as some of these teams? And then are their objective setups going to be as good as some of these teams? Because even teams that I would say are sometimes kind of shaky, might still have some good neutral objective setups, even if FlyQuest play the map better. So that's where that's where it's going to be the difference maker for me. Like, if they can actually stand up to some of these teams in a 5v5, that will be the difference maker. Because I feel like that consistently is a bit where NA teams tend to struggle anyway, just because you don't get the same mechanical practice here.
But they did at Worlds versus Gen.G. They focused a lot on best of five, 5-on-5s and team fights, and so I'm very, very, very hopeful because it wasn't that long ago, half a year, and part of the thing that they did there, they very clearly focused on team fights and 5-on-5s with their drafts. Always getting some good frontline, getting some sort of enchanters in there too, whether it was Ivern, whether it was Busio being flexible on support as well. So yeah, I think they are focused on 5v5, so hopefully we will be able to pull out. Yeah, that's all we can do now is be hopeful and be confident and be excited for MSI. It is coming up. I think that is going to wrap us up. Thank you, Emily, for stepping in.
I hopefully represent Canada well, even though I'm not Canadian.
We're gonna head on over, and they will welcome you with open arms. That's going to wrap it up.
Marchand jersey. I don't know about that.
That will wrap it up for us here on The Dive, driven by Kia. Though remember, if you're watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss an episode of The Dive. You can also check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Our next couple of episodes will be dropping during MSI, so keep an eye out for those. MSI begins June 27th at 12 p.m. with G2 Esports versus FURIA. Let's go, LTA Seoul. Take them down.